My name is Bill Jones with recapturefederalism.com and also operationofficialmisconduct.com. Today I wish to have a little discussion about the Constitution and treaties. We have Mr. John Kerry, the Secretary of State, as we see by the headlines here, signs a arms trade treaty signed by John Kerry, opens new front in Senate battle over gun control. And this was an article in the HuffingtonPost.com. Really, there's some very, very big questions that are raised about the constitutionality of this treaty with the United Nations. Right away, most people would think it's really, and there is obviously ramifications with the Second Amendment, and that's part of it. But what's even a larger problem for United States citizens, and also I might add a problem for the President and for the Secretary of State, is the fact that this treaty itself violates the Constitution of the United States. They're in violation of their oaths to support the Constitution of the United States. You see, there has been Supreme Court decisions already concerning treaties and constitutional rights. And let's get right into it. The violation of the oath is that you're supposed to support the Constitution and Bill of Rights. It is the supreme law of the land. And it turns out this arms treaty with the United Nations would violate the Constitutional Article 6, dealing with treaties, and also with basic human rights of Americans under the Bill of Rights. We'll start out first with a little piece from Wikipedia regarding this Supreme Court case from 1957. It's Reed versus Colbert. It's a case about the spouses. They combine cases, one from the United Kingdom and the other is from Japan. They each were female spouses of military men, and they were being tried for killing their husbands. Two separate incidents, unrelated, except for the law ramifications. They were combined. The army, or the military, I should say, was going to try these women under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And the argument against that is they're not subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So then they're being outside of the United States, they need to be tried somewhere else. And they should have been brought back to the mainland of the United States and tried, and they were not. And I won't get too much into that from now on, because it's not the primary opinion of the court. The opinion of the court is down here in the last paragraph I show. The court found, quote, "No agreement with a foreign nation can confer power on the Congress or any other branch of government which is free from the restraints of the Constitution," unquote. The court's core holding of the case is that U.S. civilians abroad have the right to the Fifth Amendment and Sixth Amendment constitutional protections. And we'll go farther and get deeper into this, because it's much more far-reaching than that. In this particular case, it had to do with the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. But as you will see, the court talks about the Constitution and all of the Bill of Rights, not just two amendments. So if you're speaking about the UN gun ban treaty, you're dealing with the Second Amendment primarily, but you're also dealing with other Bill of Rights also, and Constitution. Also from the Wikipedia article, farther on down the opinion of the court, Justice Black declared, quote, "The concept that the Bill of Rights and other constitutional protections against arbitrary government are inoperative when they become inconvenient or when expedience dictates otherwise is a very dangerous doctrine, and if allowed to flourish would destroy the benefit of a written constitution and undermine the basis of our government," unquote. Here, there's an excerpt from the Supreme Court decision that also appeared in the Wikipedia article, directly out of the court case itself. We want to look at number 1 and number 4. Number 1, when the United States acts against its citizens abroad, it can do so only in accordance with all the limitations imposed by the Constitution, including Article 3, 2, and the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. Then in number 4, under our Constitution, courts of law alone are given power to try civilians for their offenses against the United States. From the actual court case written, and the results written by the Justice Black, 1. At the beginning, we reject the idea that when the United States acts against citizens abroad, it can do so free of the Bill of Rights. The United States is entirely a creature of the Constitution. Its power and authority have no other source. It can only act in accordance with all the limitations imposed by the Constitution. When the government reaches out to punish a citizen who is abroad, the shield which the Bill of Rights and other parts of the Constitution provide to protect his life and liberty should not be stripped away just because he happens to be in another land. This is not a novel concept. To the contrary, it is old as government. It was recognized long before Paul successfully invoked his right as a Roman citizen to be tried in strict accordance by Roman law. They also continue to go on, and I may do a podcast on this next section regarding rights of Englishmen, and that's common law. They keep talking about acting against citizens abroad. Well, you might be in the United States, but the United Nations is as if it is an embassy. It has diplomatic immunity. It's in fact a foreign power, and the land and the building there is in fact a foreign government, the United Nations. The United States may be a member of that, but if they were to enforce the laws and the treaty, you in effect would be tried abroad under the jurisdiction of a foreign government. From the decision itself, the first paragraph up there, the quote, "In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall be committed." Now, this treaty, where are people going to be tried at? Where's the enforcement going to come at? United Nations? That's not part of the United States. Further on down, you see, this court and other federal courts have held or asserted that various constitutional limitations apply to the government when it acts outside the continental United States, while it has been suggested that only those constitutional rights which are fundamental protect Americans abroad. We can find no warrant, in logic or otherwise, for picking and choosing among the remarkable collection of thou shalt nots which are explicitly fastened on all departments and agencies of the federal government by the Constitution and its amendments. Moreover, in view of our heritage and history of adoption of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, it seems particularly anomalous to say that the trial before a civilian judge and by an independent jury picked from the common citizenry is not a fundamental right. Now, if you're going to have enforcement by the United Nations, their judges, and not only that, the decision also talks about the Constitution and its amendments, not treaties. Not even laws, the supreme laws of the land. We're talking right down to the basic Constitution and the Bill of Rights as it was written 200 some years ago. Now, we have a situation where Mr. Kerry, who I believe he violated his oath even by signing this, that can be and should be considered official misconduct. It's going to go before the Senate for ratification. That is the process. It's a treaty. Now we're going to have all these senators, many of them who are lawyers. Mr. Kerry's a lawyer. Was. The same with the President of the United States, was an attorney. Was a lecturer at the University of Chicago. They ought to know the law. They ought to know about these decisions. The Secretary of State dealing and making and signing treaties should be aware of what's in the treaty and how it negatively would impact citizens of the United States and their basic human rights. Then we go to the Senate. What are they going to do? They're going to pass this? Continue their criminality against the basic human rights of American citizens? The right to bear arms is not supposed to be infringed by our government, and when I say our government, I mean elected officials. The United States government really is the people with representatives who don't act very well most of the time. And one could consider those who approve this treaty with the United Nations are in fact taking criminal action and should be held accountable.